nations will come, all will come, all will come. Arise, arise, your light has come. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. For your love has turned us around. Your love has turned us around. These walls we've built are all coming on down. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. Arise, arise, your light has come. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. Arise, arise, your light has come. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. For your love has turned us around. Your love has turned us around. These walls we've built are all coming on down. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. Around. Your love has turned us around. These walls we've built are all coming on down. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. Nations will come, all will come, all will come. Nations will come, all will come, all will come.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope y'all enjoyed your morning session. There were some great workshops this morning that took place. Let us know in the chat what workshop you went to and anything new that you learned throughout the conference. This morning, we also learned about the international and domestic asks that will be taking place, that will be taken to Congress tomorrow. You can review the ask materials on the Lobby Day tab of the Attendify app or the Attendify website. Now, for the rest of the evening today, you will have the opportunity to learn more about Lobby Day tomorrow from Cassandra Carmichael of the National Religious Partnership for the Environment. Now, during this session, you will be put into breakout rooms by state. So if you are joining via Attendify right now, you will need to sign into Zoom so that you can participate in those breakout rooms. And there is a link to the Zoom room if you look in the chat on Attendify under the 4 o'clock plenary session. Now, also, there will be another block of workshops later on this evening and an evening poetry session, which I am very excited for. But before we dive into those agenda items, we have a video from Representative McEachin, who represents Virginia's 4th Congressional District. Now, Representative McEachin is a great advocate for environmental and climate issues. Representative McEachin co-founded the United for Climate and Environmental Justice Congressional Task Force and continues to lead the task force as the co-chair. In February of 2020, Representative McEachin, along with Representative Grijalva, introduced landmark legislation, which is the Environmental Justice for All Act. So let's turn to the video from Representative McEachin.
Hi, I'm Congressman Donald McEachin. I have the honor to represent Virginia's 4th Congressional District. It's my pleasure to be with you today virtually as you kick off your advocacy days for climate and social justice. Pollution, climate change, and environmental injustice represent threats to our communities and to the gospel. Core values shared by all faith traditions teach the importance of loving your neighbor, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Our shared moral considerations are at stake, and our mandate is clear. Environmental justice is a moral challenge. We cannot afford to sit on the sidelines of the climate crisis. We need now for faith leaders and their communities to stand up and raise their voices for the sound climate policy that will protect all of God's children. I am thankful to have partners like you in this fight for climate justice. God bless you all, and welcome to Capitol Hill.
We are so grateful for Representative McEachin recording that video for us during our Ecumenical Advocacy Days. Next up, we have Cassandra Carmichael, who is the Executive Director of the National Religious Partnership for the Environment, also known as NRPE, who will give us some instructions on Lobby Day and best practices for Hill meetings. So over to you, Cassandra.
Thank you very much, Christian. And I think I'm going to turn over for just a second the floor to Mike Neuroff, who wanted to make an announcement before we get started. Mike?
Yes, everyone. As you may have heard, the verdict in the Derek Chauvin case may be announced here shortly. And so when that comes, we may pause for a moment, but I wanted to share with everyone also this prayer that is from the Presbyterian Church. And so we're going to figure out whether we either do this collectively or pause and have you say this litany on your own, but just to know that that is coming, and that is also heavy on all of our hearts in this moment, even as we focus our attention on our lobby visits tomorrow. So as of yet, we do not have that, the verdict, but we are anticipating that. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Thank you, Mike. You can just keep us apprised of that. So welcome. This is the final leg of your journey for Ecumenical Advocacy Days 2021. It is a new type of Ecumenical Advocacy Days, as we've all experienced it virtually. And now you're going to hit the Hill. You're going to go to the Hill virtually. And Representative McEachin said it well. He said, welcome to Capitol Hill. And you're going to be doing that, but you're going to be doing that maybe from the comfort of your own home or in your backyard or someplace that's not actually Capitol Hill. So we're going to go over some of the logistics of how to do that. But before we do that, I just want to stress to you why it's important that we are advocating for climate justice to our members of Congress. You're going to be meeting with your Senate offices. And the reason why this is important, because these Senate offices, House representatives, they don't hear enough from us as people of faith about why addressing climate change is a moral issue and why it's an issue from a place of faith. So having your voice as a person of faith, a faith leader, is critical as they begin to address climate change and climate justice. So I want to highlight that for you. And I want you to also know that even though you might be doing 1 or 2 visits tomorrow, you are part of a collective group of people that have been meeting with representatives in Congress on the issue of climate justice for some time. And even last week, United Methodist Women met virtually with their members of Congress to talk about climate justice and just transition. So you're part of a collective, we're part of a community as we walk this walk together. So that's a reminder of why it's important. And I'm so glad that you're doing it. And I've enjoyed scheduling all these meetings and interacting with some of you. So I want to, before we get started in sort of how you're going to do the meeting, I want to start with the mechanics, because that can be a little overwhelming. It's not the same for any of you that have come and done Ecumenical Advocacy Days before, where you walk down to the office and maybe you met with some of your state delegation outside the door to the office of the Hill visit and sort of coordinated that way and then walked in and you had a face-to-face. That's not how this is going to work. This is going to be virtual. So there's 2 types of calls you're going to be doing. You're going to either be doing a Zoom video call or you're going to be doing a conference call. For the most part, we've tried to do Zoom calls. There were some offices, Hill offices, that requested that we do conference calls instead. And I'm sure that is probably just to spare some of the staffers of having to be on Zoom calls all day long. So we tried to be respectful of those requests. So if you have a conference call and you have a large group, chances are it's because the Hill staffer requested that we have a conference call and not a Zoom call. In your email inbox, you should have received or will be receiving before my kids go to bed tonight at 9 o'clock, you will be receiving an email that gives you instructions of how to log in for each of those Hill meetings. I have pasted in the chat the link to all the entire Hill schedule. That Hill schedule does not include the links. The links are coming to you as a delegation in your email inbox. It lists the schedule and it lists whether or not it's a Zoom call or if it's a conference call. One note, when you log in for a Zoom call, for the most part, you can log on 15 minutes prior to when the meeting actually starts. And I've noted that in the email. And that gives you a chance to sort of make sure everyone can get logged on. And if you have any last minute arrangements that you need to do amongst yourselves before the staffer comes on board. So you should have like a little 15-minute window for the most part if you have a Zoom call. Not always true with a conference call, and it won't be true for any Zoom calls that were set up by the staffer themselves and not set up by one of the EAD leadership teams or myself. If you have any trouble with getting onto a Zoom call, at the bottom of the invite, of the link of all the information for the Zoom call, you will see a place where you can dial in the old-fashioned way on your telephone, your cell phone. Feel free to use that if you need to, if you can't get on. If you have any problems at all from a technological standpoint, feel free to email me during the course of the day tomorrow, and I will do the best I can to get you logged on and help you get to your staff meeting or your Hill meeting. So that is the logistics for the technology part. Now we're going to go into the nuts and bolts. And Ken, I don't know, Matt, were you going to put up a slide that kind of outlines the agenda for your Hill meeting? So just to note, there's a how-to guide that is posted in the Attendify platform. If you click down on the left side, you'll see it looks like a Capitol Hill dome. You'll see that dome and it says Lobby Day, and it provides the different links. It provides the domestic ask backgrounder, the backgrounder for the international ask, the ask video, a leave behind document, the talking points, everything you need to know, but it also has planning your virtual visit. That is going to repeat some of the things that I'm going over with you today. So you'll see on this slide, there are roles on one side of the slide and the agenda, and they kind of go hand in hand. So when you go into your state breakout session in a few moments here, your task is going to make sure that you assign someone to each of these roles. If you only have 3 people going to your Hill visit, then obviously you're going to have to take on more than one role personally. So you need to have a facilitator. That's going to be the person that opens the meeting and keeps the meeting flowing until you close through at the end of your time with the staffer. The facilitator is also going to make sure that they queue up who in the agenda when the next person is going to speak, if that person doesn't automatically start speaking. The next role you need to assign is a note taker, and that person just jots down what was talked about during the meeting. And the note taker can be the person that fills out the reporting form for the virtual visit. That reporting form, of course, is found in the Attendify platform under that little icon that looks like a Capitol dome. You'll also need someone assigned, and it could be the facilitator or someone that does the domestic ask, it doesn't matter. Someone to just say a thank you. It's really important that we thank the staffer for something, ideally something that the senator has already done or is supporting or is a champion of, but it could also just be a simple thank you so much for taking the time. But as best you can, try to find something concrete and specific that you can thank that staffer for, that the position the office has taken in the past. Then you're going to want to assign someone that can do, or it could be two people that can talk about the domestic ask, someone that can talk about the international ask, and one or two people, one, two, or maybe three, but probably one or two people that can ask a question. The reason why the question role is really important is because it's not a presentation. Like, I'm giving you a presentation now. We don't have any dialogue back and forth. That's not what you want to do in a Hill visit. You want to be building a relationship with these staff, building a relationship with the office, and encouraging them to have a conversation with you. So now I'm going to turn over to the agenda for your Hill visit. So you're going to kind of go in the same order of the roles in a sense. So you're going to open the meeting. That's where the facilitator can open and say, thank you so much for taking some time to meet with us. And then the facilitator is going to make sure there's introductions that are gone around the room and including the staff member. Make sure the staff member gets a chance to introduce themselves. So opening, introductions, then the domestic speaker can speak, international speaker then speaks, and then you see we want to kind of quickly move into where you're doing the dialogue. So then have a first question come up, and it shouldn't be a yes or no question. It should be, because then that ends the conversation, yes or no, and then you move on. You want it to be a question that can prompt some conversation. So, could you tell me a little bit more about your boss's or the senator's position on Green Climate Fund? That's a great example of a question because it's somewhat open-ended. It's not a yes or no. Then if you have time, you ask a second question, and then the facilitator can help close it up and do the closing part. In the closing part, the facilitator wants to wrap everything up and repeat the asks if you have time. You only have 30 minutes for all of these meetings. And there's one meeting, and I noted it on the Google Sheet, that's only 20 minutes long. So you won't have a lot of time, but you'll have enough time to get across the message that we want to get across and to begin a dialogue. You can leave that slide up if you want, but you can find all that. The roles are listed along with an articulation of what I just said and the agenda. It's all in that planning your virtual visit, which I think Jose referred to earlier as the roadmap to your lobby visits. So a couple things I want to highlight for you before you go into your breakout sessions is you want to make sure that you turn in a reporting form at the end of your virtual visit. It is found in that Attendify platform, and you can click on that link and you should be able to have someone fill that out and turn it in. That's really important because it helps us know, and we can share with other folks what happened during the meeting and what we learned, and maybe some takeaways or some next steps. Some tips to keep in mind: if during your lobby visit there's a question that's asked that you can't answer, or information that's requested that you can't provide in that lobby visit, just make sure you assign someone that was in the meeting to follow up with that Hill staffer. If you get stuck for some reason, just let myself know and we'll figure out how to get that information or get that question answered for the Hill staffer. So, couple things to note, and I think this was highlighted during the Ask plenary that happened earlier this afternoon. The ask is a big piece. It's not just a simple, do X. It's very complicated. It is very intersectional. So stick with the ask, and don't go, I think Liz Lee said, kind of don't go off topic. You don't want to add more things in there. That ask was thought through pretty carefully, and also represents sort of the broad thinking of the entire of the religious community that's been assembled here. So I would stick to that. There are some things like maybe carbon pricing that you might want to attend to in the meeting, and I think you need to ask for a different meeting to talk about something specific like that in the future with yourself and others that want to advocate for something like carbon pricing. Make sure you check the meeting schedule. That's a Google Sheet. that I put in the chat. I can put it again in the chat later, just to make sure, check just one more time in the morning, just in case a Hill staffer, because they did it to me today, wanted to change the meeting from like 1:30 to 1 or from 4 to 2:30. So just double check and make sure. I will also be sending you an email, but that's just in case you miss an email, you've checked the schedule. If you have trouble logging into Zoom, just let me know. And I think now we can go into, well, let me just, one more thing I want to say. I've talked about engaging staff. We covered earlier in a different plenary about using your faith voice and telling your story. That's really important. We've talked about if there's difficult questions or questions you can't answer, that's fine. We can always follow up. Following up is really important in terms of making sure that the staffer has the leave behind. So make sure you assign someone to, which is the facilitator. The facilitator should be the person that circles back with the staff after the meeting and sends the leave behind. Having walked with United Methodist Women last week when they did their lobby visit, I will say that the one thing that I took away from that is that, one, it's a really complex issue. Climate justice is not an easy thing to solve or fix. So if you get overwhelmed with all of the information in the ask, and I think Leslie's highlighted that this afternoon, it's okay to just talk about what we would say, like the top line messages of why you care about addressing climate justice and why it's important from your perspective as a person of faith. It's perfectly fine to do that. And then you can provide the leave behind, which can articulate some of the more, what we say, wonky details. So try not to be intimidated. Remember, the people, for those of you that haven't done this before, the people that you're meeting with are people. Some of them are very young, some of them are not so young, but they're just people. And they are there to listen to you. You're their constituent. So with that, I believe that we can do some breakout rooms. So I'm going to turn it over.
Cassandra?
Yes.
Before we do that, I think it would be good for us to maybe pause and read that litany together, if we can.
Sure.
I'm having some issues with my computer here, but let me see if I can share that. I don't know if it's going to work for me. I put that litany in the chat box. Let me put it here again for folks. And my Zoom just is glitching. Cassandra, would it be possible for you to read that litany?
Yes. I can't see it though. So Jesus said, I think it's shared on our screen here. Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, peace I give to you. I do not give you to the world as I not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid." And that's from John 14:27. So let us pray. Jesus, who was misunderstood, maligned, and murdered, you were there as he breathed the last. You were there with the jurors now. You are with us as we wait. Jesus, who wept in anguish, hear our sorrow and grief. Jesus, who turned over tables, see our anger and rage. And Jesus, who shared our life and bore our death, feel our worry, exhaustion, shame, and despair. No verdict can give George Floyd back his life, and no finding can absolve us of his death. We pray for justice. Lord, hear our prayer. God, your justice is not punishment or excuses, but seeing right that was wrong. Use this moment, Lord, to bring your justice. Give us humility to learn from our past, courage to engage the present, and resolve to give us peace. Amen.
Thank you. Technical difficulties, I apologize for that. Otherwise, we're ready to go into Zoom breakout rooms.
Yes, you do have an assignment. And Mike, I think you're still sharing your screen. There you go. Your assignment is to assign roles and to make sure you need to review the agenda if you need to. You probably won't have time to walk through the whole thing, but at the very least, you need to assign roles. Note that not everyone that's going to be in the Hill meeting is probably with you today. So there might be some folks that show up afterwards or show up tomorrow. So maybe keep that in mind. I tried to send everybody a list of all the participants in their states. I know I didn't get around to all of you because I'm still waiting for some meeting logistics for you, but do the best you can. And that's hopefully why there's 15 minutes before your meeting tomorrow can be helpful. So I will turn it over to Becca. I think you're going to assign people their breakout rooms, and then in each breakout room, you'll have someone that can hopefully help you if you need any questions.
Yes, you should be able to choose your own breakout room. So at the bottom of Zoom, there's a little button that says breakout rooms. Click that and then find your state. If you don't have a state, just hang on here for a minute and we'll get you in there and in where you should go. So if you can't figure it out, just wait for a minute. We'll get most folks going to their rooms as possible, and then we'll help y'all out who can't figure it out. So click the breakout room button at the very bottom of your screen. It should be there's your mute button, your stop video button in those meeting control panel options. It looks like 4 little squares all together. It says breakout rooms. So you should be able to click on that. And as long as you're in Zoom, if you're in Attendify, you will not see this option. So that's the the caveat I have with that. So if you are in Attendify, you'll need to get out of Attendify. We've put the link to Zoom in both the session schedule option as well as in the main activity stream on the homepage. So if you're in Attendify, you need to get out and come into Zoom and choose your breakout room.
And Becca, someone asked a question, I forgot to answer this. We have scheduled meetings with almost all the senators, but not the House side. On the House side, you're going to be making telephone calls, and there's a script for that.
All right, go find your breakout rooms.
What the world needs now is joy in resistance. We will fight the good fight with or without your assistance. Move out of the way if you can't support the mission. What the world needs now is joy in resistance. All we need what is the world needs now is faith in resistance. We will fight the good fight with or without your assistance. Move out of the way if you can't support the mission. What the world needs now is faith in resistance. What the world needs now is love in resistance. We will fight the good fight.